is up, guys? What is up? Just taking a moment here. Got some interesting developments to talk here from the past, 24 hours of NBA free agency. So this should be interesting to dive into for sure, but I'll wait a moment or so, see if chat fills in a little bit. If so, sweet, we'll roll with it. If not, this will basically be an archive video anyway. All right, so I'm just going to get rolling on it. So, as if NBA free agency wasn't already crazy enough, we had another massive twist yesterday. Probably, around 6:30-ish, somewhere in there. Just a bizarre landscape-altering move. It appeared the Lakers had won free agency by acquiring LeBron James. And less than 24 hours later, or I suppose over 24 hours, whatever, for a day, they were the kings of the NBA news. And then the Golden State Warriors, already in the midst of their dynasty, basically said, hey, don't forget about us. Let me see here. Looks like the stream health is not super strong. Let me make an adjustment here. Let's try that. See if that doesn't make some kind of difference for the stream. Hopefully. But, anywho, yeah, this is the general sense that the Golden State Warriors blew everyone's minds pretty much when they acquired a four-time All-Star in DeMarcus Cousins. And what's even crazier is I honestly didn't even comprehend that he could end up there. And that's the honest truth. Like, all they could offer was the mid-level exception. That's $5.3 million. The Mavericks just paid $24 million to DeAndre Jordan, just north of $24 million to get DeAndre Jordan in here, and that's the best they were able to do. And that's insane when you consider the difference in pay. Now, yes, Boogie is coming off of a torn Achilles in late January. And yes, it will be probably December or January before he's able to take the court for the Warriors. But if there was ever a team who could absorb that loss and make it not even matter, it's the Warriors. They've been to the finals 4 years in a row. They won 3, should have won all 4. Blew a 3-1 lead in 2016. They have 2 straight titles they're going on. Kevin Durant, 2-time finals MVP. He's new to that equation the past couple of years, obviously. This is the first time, I read somewhere, this is the first time since 2000, sorry. Train of thought got checked there. First time since, I think, 1975 that one team has had 5 All-Stars from the previous season. And that's bonkers. That was the Boston Celtics, for the record. But just to find ourselves in this situation. All right. So we should be better now. Still going. This stream feels very all over the place. I'm curious if it's resolved yet. If it's now going to Golden State. Now, the people who are angry, as I mentioned, Dallas gave $24 million to DeAndre Jordan. There's no way when they did that on Saturday, they knew that 48 hours later, a guy like DeMarcus Cousins would be gone for 1 year, $5.3 million. No chance. But here's the thing. DeMarcus Cousins wouldn't have taken that deal with anybody but Golden State. Maybe you could say Boston for 1 year, but he wasn't going to come to Dallas on $5.3 million. Dallas could have tripled that offer and said, hey, we'll give you 15.9, $16 million. I don't know that. I mean, maybe he would have done that. But again, if it's a 1 year deal, and by the way, for those wondering, no, Golden State will not have Boogie's bird rights this next offseason, the best they could do is offer him a 120% raise on the current mid-level exception he has next year, which would then mean playing for like another 8.9, I think is what I heard, 8.6. And if that's the case, Boogie's not doing that 2 years in a row. To me, this feels like he knows the Warriors get all the attention and all the exposure, and they're so stacked with talent that him being the fourth option in that offense is going to allow him to showcase himself while at the same time not taking on too much of the responsibility. Oh, wow, stream health is starting to look real good now. Nice connection switch, DDP. Yes, I just talked about myself in the third person, which is not a cool thing to do. Let's actually test this, see how good this really is. I'm going to flip it back real quick to the graphic here I had before. And if it starts going glitchy or something again, then I'll flip it back to what I had. Oh, look, slightly less stream health. Fantastic. Anyway, this is a train wreck of a stream early on. I might be bailing on this one here momentarily. But the point is that it feels like no one wants to compete, really, anymore. Like, Cousins, he could have gone to Boston, and I would have been like, okay, he went to a contender, and he took very, very little money to do it. All right, fine. Boston's a young, up-and-coming team. They're, as far as a stacked team in the NBA, certainly the Eastern Conference, maybe the whole NBA, they're probably right there. Because I do think that Houston took a step back by losing Trevor Ariza in free agency, and I think they're going to be hard-pressed to be right there with the Warriors necessarily. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before about Houston dropping off a little bit. But I just tend to think that, man, you gave, 33-year-old Chris Paul $4 years and $160 million? That's more than LeBron got. And I don't know at this stage of his career I would have been giving Chris Paul that kind of money. But I know what he means to that team and how if they probably had him in Game 6 or 7, that's probably them in the finals and them hoisting the trophy instead of instead of the Warriors, because they only had to go through LeBron and the listless Cavaliers. Shout out Logan Q. Yeah, it's a weird situation for sure. I get what Boogie said about how he got no significant offers and how he was kind of surprised on Saturday when no one really came calling. And as a result, he decided to go tell his agent, like, all right, make some calls, reach out to them. I heard Draymond Green was influential in getting him, that he was, instrumental in acquiring him as well. Steve Kerr. Man, it's an embarrassment for riches for the Warriors. First time since 1975 one team has had 5 All-Stars. And 5 All-Stars from the previous year. It's absurd how stacked the Golden State Warriors are. Now, to keep in mind, Boogie's not going to be ready until at least December or January. It could take longer. And from an Achilles tear, usually the first year back isn't really 100%. It's going to continue being something he has to work through. And he could come back from it, but an Achilles is a really tough injury to come back from. This to me feels like, hey, this gets me in front of a national audience all throughout the year, including playoffs. I've never been to the playoffs personally in my career. Only the last year's Pelicans were there, and he was injured, obviously. So this gives him that kind of exposure he hasn't had. It allows him to guarantee that he can get a title, or at least all but guarantee he can get a title. And like I said, the Warriors aren't going to be able to keep him. They're not. This is a 1-year deal for Boogie. And I don't know where they'll go from there. Caesar M, can NBA disband this team? No, they cannot. This is not the Chris Paul trade of 11, 12, something like that. This is not Chris Paul to the Lakers. This is free agency. This is how the system was set up through the CBA. The fact that a guy who, if not a max player, a certainly close to max player in Boogie Cousins at 27 years old was able and willing to take this deal is crazy. Now, there's got to be some kind of marketing pitch, you would think, to where it's like, hey, from the team, you might not get this much money, but you'll get so much sponsorship stuff and off the court stuff here that it'll make up for that drop off. And, the Lakers use that kind of crap for their recruiting all the time as well. I mean, that literally was the basis of the pitch to guys like Paul George, LeBron, and literally any other big name free agent you can think of in the last forever. So I don't know what this does for the stability of the NBA other than it's a 1-year thing. And as sick as I am of seeing the Warriors in the NBA Finals, I've still never forgiven KD for going there. And it's not my judgment to rain on him or anything like that. But I'm never going to look at... KD could win 5 more titles. I'm never going to hold that reputation and that legacy up the same way I would hold up other guys. Even guys like Kobe. Kobe had to bring in Shaq, but then he won 2 on his own without Shaq. Those 2 for Kobe, I think, outweigh anything Durant could do with the Warriors. Kobe didn't go join a 73-win team and then have the audacity to suggest he was just trying to help them get over the hump after they blew a 3-1 finals lead. It's ridiculous. And to have them then win 2 titles with KD and then add, even just for 1 year, DeMarcus Cousins is crazy. The most Golden State can pay him next year would be a 120% raise on this current deal I read. As a result, that's still only talking like $6.8 million, I think. He's not doing that 2 years in a row. This is a 1-year, pick my value up and allow me to maybe get a title. Certainly allow me to showcase, once I'm back on the court, the state of my health and get to do something in the playoffs. And Golden State doesn't need him. They don't. I mean, they were probably going to be at least in the Western Conference Finals again next year. And now that they have him, if he's anywhere near ready, and good God, when he's only got to be the 4th option on that team, if he's anywhere near ready come playoffs, it's going to be absurd again. It's going to be like 2 years ago when Golden State lost 1 game on the way to the finals and lost only then no games on the way to the finals, 1 game in that finals, only because they took their foot off the gas as far as closing out Cleveland in Game 4. Gentleman's sweep, as it were. Boogie wasn't going to take this deal anywhere else other than maybe Boston. Boston apparently was the runner-up. I don't know what Boston's cap figure was going to be as far as what they could offer him. I assume it was going to be more than the 5.3, but who knows? But Boogie would not have taken this deal to come to Dallas. I know there are some people, some Mavs fans who have messaged me today and are like, why would Dallas sign DeAndre Jordan to $24 million when Boogie Cousins, who is all intents and purposes a better center, went for freaking $5.3 million a couple days later? Simple answer is Mavericks A, had no idea the market was going to turn that way for Boogie, and B, even if they could have known that, I still don't think they would have made necessarily the offer for him. I mean, if it was 5.3, yes, they would. But I mean, I don't think they were ever going to prioritize him because they never liked the idea he was going to have to come off of that Achilles injury, and they were worried that they want to be in the playoffs now. They're not ready to be, but they want to be. And they've actually lost some real parts, including Seth Curry as well yesterday. And I think that they have more to figure out between losing Curry and McDermott. That's a bad 1-2 punch to lose on a team with not a lot of three-point shooting. But Boogie, if they wanted to be in the playoff run, Boogie never fit into their plans as far as being a fit. Again, $5.3 million, then maybe they would have reconsidered, but I don't think anyone processed in their brain that he would ever take something that small of a contract. So, what it means for the NBA, it certainly means for next year that we're going to have a very bland NBA Finals. It's going to be another year of what we've had, and for teams like LA, the Lakers, because their fans immediately have the highest expectations. For teams like the Celtics, the Thunder, the Rockets, they're probably fuming over this. OKC, in their case, they were celebrating. Russ had that huge party because they convinced Paul George to re-sign with them. Not only re-sign, but re-sign long-term. That's awesome for them. They took a monster gamble to make sure they didn't lose Russ, and then took a monster gamble to make sure they didn't lose the guy they brought in to basically be his, not Robin, his Batman. I know they try and treat it like it's a 1 and 1A thing in terms of the elite guy, but let's just say the Batman to his Superman and Paul George. They brought in Melo to then appease George and show him, hey, man, we'll do whatever. Even though the Melo thing clearly didn't work out, the acquisition still made its point. And bringing in Paul George locked up Russ full term. And then bringing in Melo helped lock up Paul George for long term. So they made a hell of a gamble, and it paid off. Good for them. But you know what? Now you got a whole year of that, presumably 3 years, that just feels like a wash, right? Like, it is incredibly hard to envision someone really challenging Golden State next year. Shout out Virginia's finest. Salute. But I can't see anyone really pushing Golden State, assuming Boogie is anything like himself. Now, I said before when I was talking about in my Mavs free agent target video, when I listed DeMarcus Cousins, I specifically said he's not touching the court until December or January. And then it's going to take him probably 6-8 weeks just to kind of get back up to speed, back in basketball shape and everything, and just getting used to physically moving around. An Achilles injury is nothing to joke about, man. That's a really hard injury to come back from. Now, he's young enough. It could be all right, but he is a big dude, so it might be a little more difficult for him than it would have been for a guard like Wes Matthews. Wes came back after a late Achilles tear the previous season and played for the Mavericks, but he even since said that he felt that was a mistake in terms of his, I guess, rehab and general recovery from the injury. So I can't say whether or not that was the right move for him. Obviously, hindsight, it's easy to say no. But I don't know when Boogie will be ready. Maybe they bring him back February. Maybe they bring him back in March and say, hey, you got 6 weeks till playoffs. Get it. Now's your chance to get going. All we need you for is playoffs. How many rings do I think the Warriors will win? Asks Superflex. Well, we already got 3. Curry is one of very elite company to have 3 rings before he's 30. I would have to say, obviously, I think they got this next year, barring some significant injury like a Durant or a Curry, and then a team like Houston. If Houston can manage to not drop off too far, although I think Ariza was a big loss for them in terms of their defense. If they can hang in there, or an Oklahoma City can somehow shed the Melo contract and make another move somehow, maybe they can give a threat. Of course, they couldn't even get out of the first round last year, so who knows. I mean, they got 4. Should be 5, but they got 4 after this year, I think. And then I think that they still got another 2 to 3 years of being at that window. Who knows? I know that Draymond Green is pursuing a Supermax contract from the Warriors. Man, that team is way cash-strapped now. How on earth would they be able to give Draymond a Supermax on top of everything? Draymond, man, dude he's a very good player. He is. But it's a weird thing because I think he doesn't process that part of what makes him so effective is that he's on the team that he's on and that he's able to kind of be that fourth option. He's not a superstar in his own right. You don't go take Draymond Green and stick him on another team and say, boom, future of your franchise right here. This is your guy. That's just not what he is. He's a very good all-star caliber player who works very well within the system he's in and with the players he's in. So if he's what blows up the Warriors dynasty, man, more power to him. I'm tired of seeing the Warriors in the finals, honestly. Jamie A. Aponte Ortiz. He made a good move. I think he's talking Boogie. He made a smart move. No pressure to perform. Only his upcoming contract. but we're seeing how players coming back early from injuries have performed. Agreed. I absolutely agree. I think that it's a guarantee for him because, like I said before, the Warriors don't need him to be back in a deep playoff run. They don't need him. And not only do they not need him, if he's able to be ready in even decent capacity, let's say 70% back by the time playoffs roll around, as a fourth option on that team, they could just ask him, dude, just if the ball's in your vicinity, rebound and just shoot threes. We'll do the rest. That's all they'll need. Boogie is a stretch 5 at this point, and he can play on the low block. Like, he is about as good and complete a center as you would get. It's just a matter of what that Achilles injury is. The Warriors can't re-sign him next year. Well, they can, but they can't give him like a new deal. It's not like they have his bird rights and suddenly can throw whatever money at him. It's a factor of, I think, 120% of his current contract, so $5.3 million this year. I think it only goes up to like 6.8 next year. So they're not going to be able to maintain him. They're not going to be able to maintain him beyond this. This was always a one-year deal. And I actually saw a report earlier before Tyreke Evans signed a one-year deal with the Pacers that he was actually the Warriors' target, their primary target with the mid-level exception. And I think while he's a very good player, I know I really would have liked the fit for him in OKC. I think it was probably smarter to go to Indiana. And as far as Golden State is concerned, Boogie makes way more sense for them. I mean, hell, they won a title. They won 2 titles with JaVale McFreaking-Gee getting significant minutes, being a starter, especially in this year's case. They don't need the center. The center position's optional for them. But now not only do they get one, they get a guy who, if he's even a shadow of himself, he's in the upper crust of NBA centers. From the Pelicans' perspective, too, I got to think this is a big loss for them. Now, I know they signed Julius Randle, and that certainly appeared to tip their hand that they were moving on and they were fine with what it was given the situation. They clearly didn't offer him anything like the money he expected before, obviously his injury. But it's crazy because they gave up a fair bit to go get him from Sacramento. That first year, or not first year, that first couple months they had him, the end of that season, they were awful together. Like, not their individual stat lines, but like the team record and all of that. They were a very shallow team, and they looked very good this year. They were beastly together. They were well on their way to playoff spot. They made the playoffs, but that was even after Boogie went down after 48 games. I think that was late January when he tore his Achilles. So, yeah, it's staggering how the landscape changed so dramatically. And I don't know if it's that people just assumed that, oh, we're not even going to go bother trying to get Boogie because he's only going to want to go to either the team that can pay him most, the Pelicans, or a star-studded team. I'll tell you another problem here, too. The upper crust, like really the contenders, the league as a whole, really, they are very cash-strapped right now. And I know that sounds crazy to say because you just saw the Rockets throw around $160 million for Chris Paul. The Thunder throw around, I think, $137 for Paul George. The Lakers throw $154 at LeBron. But the teams that have cap room right now are Sacramento, Chicago, like real cap room, I mean. Sacramento, Chicago, and I think Atlanta? Memphis? No, not Memphis. Yeah. There's no appealing destination with cap room right now. And that was part of the problem for Boogie. When the phone didn't ring Saturday night, most of his best options, again, he took 5.3, but he would not, I will state again, I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that he would have taken that deal with anybody other than maybe Boston besides Golden State. Would never have taken that deal with the Mavericks. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Mavericks could have tripled it, and maybe then he would have come, but I think he always kind of envisioned, all right, if I'm not getting a max, I want a 1-year deal. And Dallas was not going to go pay for, a year of Boogie in which he plays 2 months. Doesn't work in their best interest, and they're not a good enough team at any stretch to rely that heavily on him and then have him go into, for them to keep the boat afloat basically and get to the playoffs with him. It was never going to fit. So this is a radical change to the landscape for at least 1 year. It's not LeBron going to the Lakers. It's not the flood of stars who have run over there. It's different for sure. Shout out Rangers King 669. Let's see. He says we could have signed Tyreek if we had cleared off Yogi and Collinsworth. Signed to cap plus room exception. Yeah, I don't like what the Mavericks have done in free agency at all. Like DeAndre Jordan 1 year, that's a really short stopgap. I would have probably said go 2 years. 2 years with a team option on the second year. But they've done nothing besides that. Losing McDermott hurt their three-point shooting a bit. He was a fantastic fit for their system. But to be fair, the deal McDermott got from Indiana, Dallas shouldn't have been paying that anyway. That wouldn't have been a good deal for them. And he was tight with Depot in OKC, Victor Oladipo, so I'm not surprised that he kind of followed him there. But a fully guaranteed $22 million for I think 3 years. That's I don't like that for Dallas for what role he would have ideally had for them. The one that hurt me was Seth Curry going to Portland. And when I heard how much he went to Portland for, it really hurt me because it's like, dude, Mark, Donnie, what are you doing? Do you know something we don't? Is his leg not right? Like, what is there something behind the scenes we don't know? I have no idea. But good God, letting that guy go, that pains me because 2 years ago, he was beastly for them. He was beastly when almost no one was paying attention. And I really wanted him to be a significant piece of their rebuild puzzle moving forward, at least for a few years. But now we won't get that. What else have the Mavericks done, though? Doncic was a good pick. I think in time we'll come to think he was a very good or even a great pick. But that plus DeAndre is not enough to make up for some of the pieces you're letting go, because I get it. You think three-point shooting is more easily found. All right, where are they going to find that now? They've let several of the other options off the board too. There were some other good options. Rangers King in particular, man. You always bringing fire in here, throwing out names and stuff for guys that I'm not even aware of until I dig into them. So you'll mention a name, I'll check it out, and I'm like, yeah, that would be a good fit. Or it's a guy I'm aware of but haven't seen closely, and once I dig deeper into his stat line and kind of his game, I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be interesting. So let's see, Trayvon Graham, good shooter, 6'6", 6'11", wingspan, probably able to sign for the minimum. Direct connections to Giannis. Yeah, are we already working on the Greek Freak recruiting thing more than just the fact that Dante Exum, okay, big deal. More than just the fact that we drafted his younger brother who is ridiculously raw. That is a project draft piece, but you got him at 59, so can't be upset there. And on the 0.01 chance that he's able to help you bring in Giannis in 2020 or whatever, go for it. Why not? They tried the same thing a few weeks or a couple months before Drew Holiday was supposed to hit free agency this past year, when they went and picked up his brother and put him on their D-League team. Like, you want to have a Holiday reunion? That sounds like a Tyler Perry movie. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what the Mavs are doing, but I'm not happy with their most recent decision-making. Saturday night, I was feeling really good with where they were at, even with the McDermott going away thing. But that's kind of 180 now as they let Seth get away, and I just don't know what direction they're even going. So, yeah, this next season, man, the worst thing for the NBA is the sense of inevitability. When Golden State versus Cleveland, now it did have some real, oh wow, is it going to actually happen this year? Moments in the conference finals. We thought there was briefly a chance we were going to see Boston versus Houston, and that would have been refreshing as hell. But we didn't get that moment, and instead we got Cavs Warriors Part 4, and a sweep no less. Now we're looking at at the time at least when they won last year, or this year, whatever, I at least had the thought process of like, okay, well, they were really tested this year. They look like they're coming unglued. They're not focused. Their own coach is like just frustrated and visibly exacerbated at times. He's so frustrated trying to figure out how he can keep them focused and playing hard. And Durant, being the little baby he is bickering with his own coach through the media like, oh, I don't know what he's talking about. We blah, blah, blah. I'm so done with KD. It's not even funny, man. Like, he always had a little bit of an ego, but he flipped a switch somewhere his last year in OKC. He started being, like, hostile towards any media figure in general, really condescending, and then obviously decided, you know what, I'm just going to go chase as many rings as possible. I don't care how I get it. Now he's just always, spouting off in a game, getting technicals left and right, and just acting like a woe is me, the world doesn't understand me. Plus the burner account thing, man. Come on. How many people could envision KD sitting there after the news broke last night, tweeting from a burner account like, wow, did you see DeMarcus Cousins just signed with the Warriors? Man, that's way worse than anything KD did. I mean, come on. Come on, KD. You want to say you're the best player in the world. Dude, why are you so small? Why are you so petty? Just roll with it, man. Just play. Just do your game. You can't deny how you got there. You got to the dance. You might as well just dance. People are going to rip you worse if you made those promises and said all that crap and don't deliver than if you did. LeBron going to Miami. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. Gotcha. You got 2. You went there 4 straight years. You got 2 of them. Cool. You half delivered. Well, technically on your counting, you 1/3 delivered the promise. And in KD's case, hey, to your credit at least, you've been there 2 straight years. You won 2 titles. You yourself have been Finals MVP 2 straight times. Legit. I don't respect it as much as I would other guys, but at least you're delivering on the situation, the favorable situation you've put yourself in. You do what's in your best interest, I guess. And that's, advice for anyone. Doesn't matter if it's professional sports or not. Rough Reven. Wayne Ellington would be nice, but I think he wants too much money. Connaughton would be sneaky pickup. I don't know anything on Pat, honestly. I'd have to dive deeper into kind of his game and the tape and everything. My problem with Wayne Ellington is we did that experiment a few years ago, and not really a consistent contributor in Carlisle's system. And I don't think, at least when he was a Maverick, that he was the lights-out shooter they thought he could be. 3-point shooters are a weird thing here in Dallas because, Ellington didn't really provide the lift, I thought, and what I think Dallas expected him to. Another guy that didn't do that but did well elsewhere, at least to some extent, was Anthony Morrow with the Thunder after he left Dallas, was actually pretty good. And I kind of thought for a while watching him in OKC, like, man, where was this in Dallas? Why wasn't he on the floor? That was his thing. He was never on the floor. I think Ellington's a better defender than Morrow, and that helped him at least get on the floor. But it didn't seem like he offered much lift. Of course, at this point, what options did the Mavericks have? Who cares that we got there in 2 rings? Yeah, nah, I hear you. ASDFFDSA. Clever name. Who cares how we got there? I think everyone cares how you got there. I mean, whether they care to the degree of like, oh, I'm going to let this ruin my judgment or perspective on this and blah, blah, blah. He's a Hall of Fame player. I don't take it away from like his legacy to that degree. I just think that you can't deny that he took the easiest route instead of trying to compete with and beat them. Rangers King. I think I answered. Oh no, I didn't answer that one yet. But yeah, if KD went somewhere else, or not even if he went somewhere else, like I'm not mad he left OKC. He could have gone anywhere else. I think my hang up was that he went to a 73 win team who he choked and blew a 3-1 lead against, and then acts as if like, oh, I'm just trying to get them over the hump after they themselves blow a 3-1 lead. And it's like, no, man, they were in the finals 2 straight years. They were already a champion. Like that's not the same thing. Dirk's one title in 2011. No All-Stars with him. Dirk was the show, and he beat... Now, I'm not going to call Miami the first super team because Boston was a super team before that with Garnett and Allen and Pierce. But at least the whole era of super teams really kicked into gear with Miami. Boston did it, and it was like, oh, and it kind of took the league a couple years to kind of adjust to it, and then LeBron went and started the era of super teams in Miami. And, I mean, in that case, it was something where they made big promises. They delivered 2 of the 4. Good for them. But they are judged, and even when the Warriors... Even the Warrior fans mocked him at their own celebration this year. LeBron, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 NBA Finals losses, referencing his 3-6 record in the NBA Finals. People care. KD, rather than trying to compete with them, rather than trying to beat them and using it as motivation, he decided to join them. Now, it enshrines his legacy because now record books will show he's got all these rings and finals MVPs. And, if that's his end game, fine. To each his own. I'm simply stating that in terms of competition and the spirit of it, and I know I sound like I'm about a 57-year-old white man at this point saying the spirit of competition. Probably older than that, honestly. I think that the way he went about it is a way that's not as commendable or respectable as others. How he does it, how he wants to do it, that's his business. But I think to have the mindset of like, who cares how he does it? Nah, I mean, as far as he's concerned, he can think that. But to say that I shouldn't view him any less than I view Dirks or someone like that, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Tim Duncan, he's got 4. How he went about it, I think, is every bit as respectable, although he had a little more around him in the way of all-stars than Dirk did. But all the same, hell, I'll give you Dwayne Wade's first title. Shaq was still all-star, but he was heading towards the way out. That was just freakish Dwayne Wade and some favorable officiating, but neither here nor there. All right, let's check another question here. I believe Ellington was injured the season he was with us, but you're right. Carlisle system, right? Yeah, again, I don't hate the Wayne Ellington thing if that's the direction they look, but I do think that you're right. He probably would want more money than they really have to offer right now. And we just have to see. Fafi, why King LeBron going west? That's not good. I think he's going to have a little bit of a rude awakening, honestly, because he's going to have to now face it's not the same. He's not facing Golden State twice in the regular season. He's going to face them like 4 or 5 times, something like that. And he's going to have to face a stacked Western Conferences. So regular season games, in Cleveland last year, there were so many stretches of the season where they were disengaged, and it was just like, wow, are they even trying? And they just flipped a switch when playoffs came around, and that was it. They were good enough they could do that. LeBron, specifically, was good enough he could do that. You're not going to be able to do that in the Western Conference. You can't. You can't take those games off. And now winning those games are going to be harder because now you're not playing most of your games against a weaker overall conference in the East. But for LeBron, I think his particular decision to go there kind of signaled that he is... obviously, you're going to chase as many titles as you can, right? But with LeBron, him going to LA felt more like a signal that his obsessive chase for titles was coming to a close, in the sense that he's seeing life potentially beyond basketball. Magic Johnson has made a ridiculous success of himself even beyond basketball. And I think LeBron wants to do that same thing. He has showed us as much. So you take that, and he can take LeBron kind of under his wing in that regard, teach him what he knows about business and everything, give him a blueprint in that way. Plus being in LA, which has been for years now like a second home to the James family, it makes a lot of sense from a marketability standpoint. Not that he couldn't market himself anywhere, but it makes sense for his post-career ventures, I think, in a way that staying in Cleveland or going anywhere else might not have. It's a seismic shift for sure, but the Laker fans already penciling in 1, 2, or 3 finals appearances, if not titles. I don't know if I'd go that far yet. Even with their rash of signings since then, I still look at it and say that it's 45-win team, maybe a playoff team if they can be a little better, but LeBron doesn't have a real superstar with him yet. And weirdly, their pursuit of Kawhi Leonard has gotten worse as it's gone on. They're offering lesser and lesser packages to San Antonio, and I don't know what that signals. Maybe it's just trying to get them to the point where the first time they come back then and offer something good, San Antonio's like, oh, okay, we're back into good territory. Yes, we'll do that. And I don't think the Spurs are a dumb enough organization to fall for that. So who knows? But right now, as it stands, LeBron does not have the superstar next to him, and he would need minimum one, especially next year. Minimum one. Hell, he'd basically need a Kevin Durant type star next to him, or Kawhi Leonard. But even Kawhi Leonard and LeBron, if Boogie is healthy for the Warriors, that's not going to bypass or upend anything that they're doing. I think the Warriors are far and away the best team next year if Boogie's even 65-70% of himself by the time playoffs roll around. But I think that's going to wrap up my time on this stream, guys. Oh, man, Glech. Just jumping in. No worries, Glech. I'll be back on later tonight, probably about 8:30. I'm going to have a guest on as well, a new... one thing cool that I do with the website, guys, if you're ever curious, the channel and all that, other people who are interested in being on these shows, whether they, subscribers and all that, who are just interested in what we're doing and kind of getting in on it, I'm bringing them in. I'm working with guys, if they're writers, I'm editing their work and being, editor-in-chief of the website. If they want to do podcasts like this or live shows, whatever, I'm doing that as well. And tonight, I'm going to be bringing on one of our subscribers and followers, Cameron Gatewood, as well. And we might have Law Nation on. This is actually going to be tonight a combination show. So it's going to be like a football and basketball show, essentially. We're going to talk some about the Cowboys, the schedule, and all of that. And then we're going to also, of course, touch a little bit on some of what I talked about here, but just general free agency and some of the bigger kind of storylines to come out of it. That'll be tonight around 8:30. But until then, guys, just hang tight and remember, every legend was once a prospect.